Hi, I'm Tony Hill,
And I'm Jonathan Scott.
and you're watching Sports Plus Dallas. The Dallas Cowboys head north to take on the Seattle Seahawks, the defending champions. This game reminded me of a fight, Sugar Ray Leonard versus Roberto Duran. Roberto Duran was this hard-hitting Puerto Rican who hit you with right hand, left hand, and Sugar Ray was real smooth. He hit you with the jab, he hit you with the right, and show you some footwork. But they both had seen one another once before, and as a result, the results were different. The Dallas Cowboys, 5-1. As a result of taking on the Seattle Seahawks and pretty much just playing their game. They came out there using the right hand, using the left hand, hitting low, hitting high. They didn't care what the circumstances were, and as a result, they beat the Seattle Seahawks at what they do best, smash ball football.
Yeah, it was a great game. I have to admit, it was the epitome of NFL football. Fans across the world are going to be excited. I was excited. Cowboy fans are excited. And it was just a good game.
Well, you know, it's interesting. Yeah, I referred to Roberto Duran because I'm an old guy, okay? So we're just going to get past that. But put things aside, let's look at how the Cowboys really dominated this game. They really dominated this game. Other than the 2 turnovers that they gave up, they pretty much held the Seattle Seahawks to 2 field goals. I mean, they really did their job. When you look at it from an offensive standpoint, they had 23 first downs to 9 first downs with the Seattle Seahawks. You look at time of possession, they had 37 minutes compared to 23 minutes. And when you look at yardage, 416 yards to 206 yards, the Cowboys really stuck it to them this game.
Yeah, one thing that was pretty exciting about it, it was a battle of line of scrimmage. The Cowboys defense pretty much eliminated the run game for the Seahawks.
Eliminated it.
Eliminated them. I mean, Marshawn Lynch is a powerful runner. He was not as effective this game.
Well, hold on a minute, though. I mean, when you talk about them not being effective, I mean, the reality of Marshawn Lynch carried the ball 10 times for 61 yards. So I mean, so for some reason they lost concept of what they do best, and who has something to do with that?
The coach.
There we go. And the Cowboys, though.
But you also have to look at it too. Is that the Cowboys' offense killed the line of scrimmage. They did a good job running the ball. DeMarco Murray. There's a reason why they're #1 in rushing in the league right now. It was a battle of the big guys.
Well, we got to give DeMarco Murray some daps, without a question. Here's a guy who's had 6 consecutive games of 100 yards. Only one guy who's ever done that, and that's the great Jim Brown. And the fact that he had 29 carries for 115 yards is huge, but the fact that when the game counted, they put the ball in his lap and he delivered. And that, not to mention that we got to give Randall a little bit of credit as well. I mean, he carried the ball 5 times for 52 yards to open it up, but Murray really did his job. But we talk about Murray, and we got to give him his daps. We got to give him credit. But this offensive line, Jonathan, you're playing for the Dallas Cowboys right now. You got DeMarco Murray running the ball over the way that he's running. I mean, he's not a guy that's running it outside. He's going inside the tackle. He's going inside the guard. He's running traps. I mean, they're running hard, and I'm seeing offensive line downfield where, normally where you see wide receivers blocking, I see offensive line downfield. Yeah. How do you feel about that? How would you feel blocking for DeMarco Murray?
I mean, I'd be excited because I get to impose my will on another guy, and I won't get in trouble for it. I mean, it's just a good feeling. It just brings morale throughout the entire offensive line room. And they keep that going on, man. It's just going to be wins on top of wins.
Well, I like that. You said you can impose your will and not get in trouble for it. Exactly. That's a true offensive lineman for you. I just want to give you guys some insight on that. Yeah. But, we were talking about, and there's a lot more of the game that we'll talk about, but we're talking about this offensive line. They got 3 first-rounders, and towards the end of the game when it was truly crunch time, one of the players go down. I can't recall specifically who it was, and Parnell comes in.
Yeah.
And you're talking about that. Talk about the impact that has on the team. Of course, when you're playing really well, that inspires other players to play well. 3 weeks ago, we're talking about the Cowboys' inconsistency. Now we're talking about how well they're playing. But a lot of that has to do with the offensive line. And talk about Parnell coming in.
Yeah, one of the things about being an NFL player is that everyone on the team is a starter. That's the mentality you have to have. And when you have that mentality, you got to, first guy goes down, the next guy comes in, train keeps rolling. And it was a prime example. Doug Free got hurt. Parnell came in, they ran the ball. Next thing you know, Parnell is putting the guy on his back and bam, getting 4 or 5 yards of total. I mean, that type of consistency throughout the entire offensive line, that lets me know that they're prepared. They're ready. They're getting ready for their opponent. They're doing whatever it takes to be able to be successful on Sundays.
Well, that's what I'm talking about, sending a message. I mean, you know, we talk about the Dallas Cowboys. We're talking about 3 weeks ago, there's inconsistency here. Is Romo through? I mean, is he the same guy? Maybe what we've seen is this is Romo and maybe his last hurrah. But however, if you get a chance to look at it, of course, the offensive line is doing a great job, but Romo is making plays with his feet. Now, let's talk about a big play with his feet was that third down pass to Teddy Williams. Yeah. No bigger play in the game than that. Of course, some great runs, but no bigger play than that is all established by Tony Romo and his feet conversion on that third down. Talk about that in terms of the morale and in terms of the intensity, in terms of being a believer and understanding that we can believe and we can make plays happen.
Yeah, and you know, as my grandmother would say, proof is in the pudding. You know, the thing about it is that they converted in a timely situation on third down. And if you look at the stats, they're number 1 in the NFL.
Say that one more time.
They're number 1 in the NFL of third down conversions. So it shows that the Cowboys are focusing on situational football, converting when it's needed, and big plays happen. And of course, that's how they came out with the victory.
Well, everybody, you said that's why they came out with a victory, but everybody always talked about the Cowboys when they get down, they elude what they've done well, or they forget to go where the bread and butter is. And I've seen a huge change, and you know, obviously there's only 2 games in a row, the Houston Texans without a question, and this game right here, but the Cowboys got down and they didn't panic. You know, normally they'd panic and go straight to the pass. Next thing you know, Romo's throwing the ball 70 times a game. But that didn't happen this time. What we found out is that they ran the ball. I mean, Murray ran the ball 29 times. We had 6 different receivers. We look at Teddy Williams had a catch, had a big catch. Des Bryant had a big catch. Witten had a big catch. Harris had a big catch. Cole Beasley had a huge first down and his only catch. And then we're talking about Randall coming in and running the ball. We're talking about diversification out there, and we're talking about staying true to your game. Run the ball to set up the pass when you got a great receiver like Des Bryant. That's what it's all about, and that's what I think is the big difference in the Cowboys' offense.
Yeah, and with that being said, they played good ball on both sides of the ball, offense and defense. One thing that I really noticed that was a smidget better this game was that they were
smidget.
A smidget better.
How do you spell that? You know,
smidget, S-M-I-idget.
No, don't go there. Don't go there. All right,
so one thing that I noticed that the defense was swarming all over the field. I mean, when one person was getting tackled, the entire defense was there. And one thing that I constantly say, being that Rod Marinelli was my coach when I played, he is an advocate of, he tells the defensive line, he said, I want you to run and run and run until your heart stops. And when your heart stops, run once more. So it shows on the defense. I mean, they lost some key players with Sean Lee, but they had these guys running all over the field, getting after it, and it shows. And the one thing that I have to definitely commend them on is that they kept going. They just kept going. They had their resiliency and just kept going.
Well, let's talk about the defense. I mean, I mentioned to you, we talked about when Rolando McClain went out the game, it seemed like the defense there was a setback. They seemed to stall and they weren't able to achieve and to produce. But they were able to win the game against the Texans at the end when it's all said and done. Well, in this game, I thought they really stepped up. Mariucci has always mentioned that Marinelli mentioned that one of the key things of his defense is a guy by the name of Durant on this ball club. Yeah. Durant is playing huge at linebacker. He had 9 sacks, 9 tackles. He's all over the field, and it gave the defense a chance. I mean, the defense, we're talking about Selvey played well. We're talking about, gosh, we have a defensive lineman for the first time who I haven't seen make a big play in quite some time. Spencer has really stepped up. I mean, Spencer put a lot of pressure on the quarterback. You know, one of the things I saw early in the game, for not to ramble, I saw early in the game that Wilson got outside. And Marinelli, greeted Spencer
Oh,
on the
yeah.
outside. So what are you doing?
Oh, yeah.
What are you letting him outside? We
Yeah.
want to contain him, keep him within the defensive ends, and then we'll see what happens. After that, I didn't see him get outside at all after that. As a matter of fact, they shut him down, and that gave the defensive backs. We talk about the defensive backs, but this is the first time that I've seen some cohesiveness with our defensive backs pertaining to Skandrick back there. I thought he played exceptionally well. I thought, you had Sterling coming in more and Brandon Carr. These guys played exceptionally well because they had an opportunity to play man-to-man on the line of scrimmage, and the defense created some pressure and forced Wilson to throw the ball early, and as a result, he only completed 50% of his passes.
Yeah, and we always really back in. It always goes down to the base foundation. Is when you see the defensive line getting penetration, getting people out of their steps, it creates different levels, and it creates havoc. And then, for instance, if a running back is trying to do a zone play wide and he can't press the heels of the tackle, bad things happen. And that was kind of the name of the game throughout the entire ball game.
Well, everybody talks about Sean Lee and the loss of Sean Lee, but they're not saying that anymore. And we're talking about a great player. But Rolando McClain is for real.
Yeah.
This guy is playing the center. He is causing havoc, and he is making things happen, i.e. interception at no bigger point in time of the game at the end of the game. We're talking about a big boy controlling the game.
Yeah, and one thing I would have to say is that it's a strong possibility you can see the Cowboys 9-1 before even playing the Philadelphia Eagles. Right now they have the Giants, the Redskins, the Cardinals, and the Jags. With the way that the Cowboys are playing, you might see them as America's team.
Well, you seem to be a little, cautious, because I think I'm going to be a little over-optimistic. I can see them, winning 5 in a row. I mean, the Cardinals are out of that group that you mentioned, is the only team that might provide any type of pressure or give them a game. But other than that, I expect them to win the rest of them. Well, hey, folks, that's all we have for this week. My partner, Jonathan, I'm Tony Hill. We'll see you next week on Sports Plus.
They've been around longer than the Dallas Cowboys, and you can trust one thing, that Herbs will treat you like family. Since 1956, Herbs has been putting customers first with exceptional customer service, quality work, and a hassle-free experience. Herbs takes an unpleasant experience and makes it a pleasant one, and that is what makes Herbs Paint and Body #1. They took care of me, and they'll take care of you too.
Hey guys, we're back, and Paul's actually out of town right now, but
Well, guess what? You got me, so let's
I
just talk a
do.
little Book of Life anyway. How
let's
about
talk
that,
about
okay?
it. Let's take a look.
All right, well, we're very excited about this film, The Book of Life, and one of the things we're really excited about is it's made right here in Dallas, Texas. And so I know this, you got to be excited because you get to be home and work on this, but it's such a proud thing to work with real effects. And how did you guys find each other?
Well, I mean, I came to the studio, what was it, I believe 6 years ago. I came to present the movie to the studio, and they kind of embraced it. I fell in love with Dallas. I fell in love with this place. Paul, our art director, came from Colorado. Augusto was already working here at the time. He's originally from Argentina. And what's been great is there's people from everywhere. We've all come to this studio to make something, and it's really fueled by love of Texan food, I gotta say. It's been, and a lot of tequila too, but it's been a really beautiful experience. The people have been so nice to us.
Well, speaking of presentations, I know your original pitch to Guillermo del Toro was pretty disastrous. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. The first time I pitched him the project, it was a mess. We pitched it outside of his house. It was 110 degrees. He was sweating, I was sweating. Just as I was about to talk, the lawnmower, it seemed like there were 30 of them in the house next door. Turned them on, and so I had to yell the pitch to him. It was a disaster. The pitch finished. We went into his house. We sat down. I just wanted to shake his hand and get out of there and be able to say that I got to meet him. But he said, Jorge, that was a terrible pitch. I said, I know. I said, but I can see right through it that this is beautiful. This is a beautiful movie.
Yeah.
I have 2 daughters. Saturday mornings, I used to watch your cartoon El Tigre, so I know your sense of humor. I know your version of Mexico, and so I want to get behind this. And he jumped on and kind of opened all these amazing doors.
Now, how is it that something on Dia de los Muertos has not been done before in animation?
Paul, would you like?
I have
You maybe
no
done some
idea.
research on this.
I have no idea. It's such a rich and beautiful aesthetic, and I think the studios have been trying to do something with it for a long time because of that. But I've been told that they couldn't find a good story, a solid story, and Jorge brings a solid story, and people love the visuals, they love the story, and it worked.
Yeah. And this is the first time we're going to see a Latina princess. How is that possible, even?
Gusto, you want to take that one?
That's it. No, you take that one.
Well, as a lover of animation, I kept waiting for the Latina princess to appear, and it never happened. So with the Book of Life, that was one of the first things we decided. Let's give all the Latina girls a kick butt princess, and the opposite of a damsel in distress.
Yeah. Well, and Day of the Dead is very important to you as well. Can you explain why it's important not only to you and your wife, but just in general?
Well, Day of the Dead is an incredibly beautiful holiday. The core belief of it is, as long as we tell the stories of those who came before us, as long as we sing their songs, tell their jokes, cook their favorite dishes, they're here. They're here with us in our hearts. The moment we don't talk about them, they really are gone. And so, growing up, I've experienced something where my family told me about Day of the Dead, and I kind of got to keep my family together, and my friends, we had passed away together. And eventually when I got married on Day of the Dead because I wanted my best friend to be my best man, and he's no longer with us, so that's how he got to go to the wedding. And all our ancestors who are not with us got to join us in that special day. And after that, I said, I want to give this to the world. I want to give this beautiful tradition from Mexico to the world.
And you've got a great cast of great Latin voices so that a lot of people recognize. But there's a couple of people that stand out here. There's Channing Tatum and Ice Cube. And you have funny stories on both of them, those discussions about that, right?
Yeah, I mean, the first time I pitched Channing, the character of Joaquin, he was this very over-the-top macho guy. I told him, you have the smoothness of Argentina, the suaveness of Brazil, the machismo of Mexico. And I basically went through all Latin America. And I told him, you're going to be Captain Latin America. And he laughed and he got really serious and he took me aside and he said, Jorge, you know I'm not Mexican, right? And we both laughed and I said, Channing, it doesn't matter. Even though this movie takes place in Mexico, I really want it universal. And I'm casting you as Joaquin because you embody this idea of this Superman. And so he fell in love with it. Same thing with Ice Cube. When he showed up to the first presentation, he kind of looked around and went, are you sure I'm right for this? And I told him, no. Again, you play an ancient god in the film. I believe you to be a god of hip hop. So I wanted to cast you as this character. And he fell in love with it and he got really behind the movie. And it's the first time he's ever done an animated film. So I'm super proud of that.
Good. Well, and for you two, how did you show him Dallas? What was the first order of business?
Well, I'm not originally from Dallas,
Yeah.
but I did fall in love with the movie working remotely with Jorge starting about 5 years ago, and I was excited about coming out to Dallas and we could all collaborate on this film out here, but it was new to me too. I was just kind of getting a lay of the land when we came out for production. So Gusto knows a little bit more about that.
I've been here for 14 years. Even if the accent will never go away. This is my place. I love this. My 2 kids were born here. So this is my home. And hopefully it's gonna keep being.
Yeah.
Well, besides real effects, what's your favorite thing you've discovered here?
I have to say, my 2 favorite things in Dallas are by far the food.
Yeah.
Barbecue here. Oh my God, I don't know where
I was gonna
the
say,
beef
yeah,
comes
that was like
from,
the first
but
thing
it's
that we did,
genius.
really, barbecue.
And honestly, no diss to Los Angeles, but the people here are so much nicer and so much more welcoming. And I don't know if it's a southern thing or what, but we felt really welcome. And it's been, we've fallen in love with the city.
That's wonderful. Well, thank you guys so much for being with us. And Book of Life comes out in October, and we'll be back with more on Sports Plus next.
That's all for Sports Plus this week.
And make sure to follow us at Sports Plus Show at Facebook and Twitter.
Remember, you can catch Jonathan and myself right here on Sports Plus.